Hi there and welcome to our podcast. And this week at London Visited, we go to Abbey Road to tell you all about this part of London, which has become iconic since the end of the 1960s. This is also a request, so if you'd like to request any part of London being covered, then please do get in touch with us and I'll give you the details at the end of the podcast. My name's Steve, and each week I'll bring to you the facts, history and information about different parts of this great capital. If you've been to London, are planning on visiting, live here, or just love London from afar, then this is the podcast for you. Don't forget to visit our YouTube channel, London Visited, to see videos covering this place and so many others across London. And now to this week's podcast. Abbey Road is a thoroughfare of the borough of Camden and the city of Westminster in London, running roughly northwest to southeast through St John's Wood near Lord's Cricket Ground. The road is best known for the Abbey Road Studios, and for also being the namesake of the album of 1969 by the Beatles. The northwest end of Abbey Road begins in Kilburn at the junction with Quex Road and West End Lane. The road was once a track leading to Kilburn Priory and its associated Abbey Farm, and was developed in the beginning of the 19th century. It continues south-east for roughly a mile, crossing Belsize Road, Boundary Road and Marlborough Place, ending at the junction of Grove End Road and Garden Road. The Abbey National Building Society, now Santander UK, was founded in 1874 as the Abbey Road and St John's Wood Permanent Benefit Building Society in One Baptist Church on Abbey Road. EMI's Abbey Road Studios is located at the south-eastern end at 3 Abbey Road, St John's Wood. The Beatles, Brockhampton and many other famous popular music performers have recorded at this studio, and the Beatles named their last studio LP after this street. The album's cover photograph shows the 4 group members walking across the zebra crossing just outside the studio entrance. As a result of its association with the Beatles, since 1969, this part of Abbey Road has been featured on the London tourism circuit. The crossing was given the status of Grade 2 listed building by English Heritage in December 2010. The zebra crossing, featured on the Beatles cover, has become a popular photo opportunity area, despite the road still being the busy thoroughfare for traffic. There have been stories about the zebra crossing having been shifted from its original location, but these are ungrounded myths, based on the stormwater drain located on the northeastern corner of the crossing, which has been there since the establishment of the sewer system in the city of Westminster. The street sign on the corner of Grove End Road and Abbey Road is now mounted high on the building on the corner to save the local council the expense of cleaning and replacing the sign, which was frequently defaced or stolen. The council repaints the wall next to the zebra crossing time every 3 months to cover fans' occasional graffiti. The recording studio was established in November 1931 by the Gramophone Company, a predecessor of British music company EMI, which owned it until Universal Music took over part of EMI in 2013. Without doubt, the most notable client of Abbey Road was the Beatles, who used the studio, particularly its Studio 2 room, as the venue for many of the innovative recording techniques that they adopted throughout the 1960s. In 1970, the studio was renamed from EMI to Abbey Road Studios in honour of the group's 1969 album. Originally a 9-bedroom Georgian townhouse built in 1831 on the footpath leading to Kilburn Abbey, the building was later converted to flats, where best-known resident was Maudry Gregory, who was famous, or infamous, for selling political honours. In 1929, the Gramophone Company acquired the premises and converted it into studios. The property benefited from a large garden behind the townhouse, which permitted a much larger building to be constructed to the rear. Thus, the Georgian facade belies the true dimension of the building. Pathé filmed the opening of the studios in November 1931, when Edward Elgar conducted the London Symphony Orchestra in recording sessions of his music. In 1934, the inventor of the stereo sound, Alan Blumlein, recorded Mozart's Jupiter Symphony, which was conducted by Thomas Beecham at the studios. The neighbouring house is also owned by the studio and used to accommodate musicians. During the mid-20th century, the studio was extensively used by British conductor Sir Malcolm Sargent, whose house was located near the studio building. The Gramophone Company merged with the Columbia Gramophone Company to form Electric and Musical Industries, EMI, in 1931, and the studios later became known as EMI Recording Studios. In 1936, celloist Pablo Casals became the first to record Johann Sebastian Bach's Cello Suites No. 1 and 2 at the command of EMI head Fred Gaisberg. The recordings went on to spur a revolution among Bach aficionados and celloists alike. Fats Waller played the Compton organ there. In 1958, Studio 2 at EMI became a centre for rock and roll music, when Cliff Richard and the Drifters, later Cliff Richard and the Shadows, recorded Move It there, and later pop music material. EMI is closely associated with the Beatles, who recorded almost all of their albums and hits there between 1962 and 1970, using a 4-track REDD mixing console designed by Peter K. Berkowitz. The Beatles named their 1969 album Abbey Road after the street where the studio is located, following which the studio was renamed as Abbey Road Studios. Ian McMillan took the album cover's photograph outside the studios, with the result that the nearby zebra crossing has become a place of pilgrimage for Beatles fans. It has been a tradition for visitors to pay homage to the band by writing on the wall in front of the building, even though it is painted over every 3 months. Abbey Road Studio got its start in the film scoring business in 1980, when Anvil Post Production formed a partnership with the studio, called Anvil Abbey Road Screen Sound. The partnership started when Anvil was left without a scoring stage. Denham Studios were demolished. It ended in 1984 when EMI merged with Thorn Electrical Industries to become Thorn EMI. From the 18th of July to the 11th of September 1983, the public had a rare opportunity to see inside the Studio 2 room, where the Beatles made most of their records. While a new mixing console was being installed in the control room, the studio was used to host a video presentation called The Beatles at Abbey Road. The soundtrack to the video had a number of recordings that were not made commercially available until the release of the Beatles Anthology project over a decade later. In November 2011, Australian recording artist Kylie Minogue recorded some of her most famous songs with a full orchestra at the Abbey Road Studios. The album, called Abbey Road Sessions, was released October 2012. On the 17th of February 2010, it was reported that EMI had put the studios up for sale because of increasing debts. There was reported interest by property developers in redeveloping the site into luxury flats. It had also been reported that there was a possibility the studios could be purchased by the National Trust to preserve what was in effect a historical building. A Save Abbey Road Studios campaign attempted to ensure the premises remained a working studio. On the 21st of February 2010, EMI stated that it planned to keep the studio and was looking for an investor to help finance a revitalisation project. Meanwhile, the British government declared Abbey Road Studios a Grade 2 listed building, which protected it from major alteration. The following December, the pedestrian crossing at Abbey Road was listed on the National Heritage List. Paul McCartney, speaking to the BBC Newsnight on the 16th of Feb 2010, said there had been efforts to save Abbey Road by a few people who had been associated with the studio for a long time. Although he did not name them or include himself among them, "I have so many memories there with the Beatles," McCartney said. "It is still a great studio, so it will be lovely for someone to get a thing together to save it." In March 2015, Abbey Road Institute was founded as a school for music production and audio engineering. In addition to the London location, Abbey Road Institute offers education globally with schools in Berlin, Frankfurt, Amsterdam, Paris and Melbourne. Students can study an advanced diploma in music production and sound engineering, which has been developed in collaboration with industry leaders and the team at Abbey Road Studios. So, I hope you've enjoyed our in-depth look at Abbey Road, and even more importantly, the Abbey Road Studios. Whatever podcast service you use to listen to this, please do subscribe to get updates on new shows, and please also leave us some feedback. As I said at the beginning, this podcast was a request, so if you'd like to request a future one covering a different area, please let me know any places you'd like us to feature in future podcasts. And you can let me know through our website, www.londonvisited.co.uk, by emailing me directly on londonvisited@gmail.com, or you can contact us through Twitter and Instagram on @LondonVisited, or Facebook on @TheLondonVisited. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time on the next podcast, and really hope you enjoyed our podcast. See you soon. Take care. Bye.